Welcome to the Strong, Single and Human podcast, a real look at single parenting, how to navigate the ups and downs of life with kids on your own while keeping sane. We cover all manner of subjects from domestic violence, dealing with childhood trauma, through to fussy eaters and how to help your kids become resilient. I'm your host, Claire Martin. Welcome. This week's guest, the adulting coach, Sara Deacon, guides the next generation to a life full of what they want instead of what's expected of them so that they can rock the future. Even coupled parents can't expect to raise amazing humans all on their own. Sara partners with parents to support teens and young adults as they navigate their transition to adulthood. She empowers teens and young adults to figure out for themselves who they want to be when they grow up, so that they can have the courage to suck at something new, confidently decide how they want to live their own lives, and adult successfully. With her unique blend of discipline and creativity, she provides a centre of balance for those looking to connect with their power and passion and find true confidence, adult successfully, and have fun. Sara connects with young people in a way that challenges and excites them, encouraging them to examine their own assumptions and take purposeful actions towards big goals. She will literally do karate with you in the garage if that's what it takes to ignite your inner fire and own your future like a boss. Her energy and optimism is infectious, and her performances are thought-provoking and interactive, no matter what level of adulting you're working with. This is the Strong, Single and Human podcast. Hi, Sara. Welcome. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Claire. It's very nice to be here.
Oh, no, I can't. Well, this is a subject dear to my heart because I have a 7-year-old going on 13, I think, at the moment. So we're going to start to talk to you about helping parents and their teens, right? As I've sort of spoken about in the introduction, right? But tell us about how you got to decide that this was your career path as such, that this is what you wanted to do, help parents and teenage kids, basically.
Yeah, well, I have served families for a very long time in my many different careers. So the evolution of my profession has just brought me here. I never rule anything out, but in the past, I had always thought, oh, well, no, I would never work with teenagers. They're scary. And that's the societal perception, right? Teenagers are full of drama and they don't listen and they're unmotivated and they can't, they won't talk and they're going to think you're stupid and weird and too old and not listen anyway. But that's really not been the case and not been what I have learned over the years. And as I entered into this coaching stage of my career, which I've coached in different roles, but never actually called myself a coach, a professional coach, until a couple of years ago. And as I was creating this new business in, I think, 2022, 2021, something like that, I kept encountering people saying, do you work with teenagers? Because they really need the kind of personal development, the kind of foundational skills that you're talking about helping adults deepen and grow. So the more people asked me that, and the more I really had to take a step back and consider, what is it about me and what is the need? And am I actually equipped to do this? And do I want to? And as I stepped into it and kept exploring, I realized how incredible an opportunity it really was to be able to connect with future generations to help shape our future communities. And these kids are really, they're so bright. They're very compassionate. They're empathetic. They've got such self-awareness and drive, and just making the connection between what they already have inside them and what their world needs so that they can see it for themselves has been very, very rewarding and inspiring for me to watch them kind of step into that for themselves. It's been really beautiful work.
Well, I've got to say, I wish I'd had a coach or a mentor or something when I was younger, because as parents, right, we don't have all the answers. And sometimes even if we do have all the answers, we're busy. We might have 2 or 3 kids.
And
we might
maybe
have
our kids aren't going to listen to all our answers.
Well, exactly.
Kids aren't going to listen to all our answers if we have. Yeah.
But you're right, okay. And they just look at you as a parent and go, what do you know? And as a parent, you're also going through so many different emotions with teenage children as well, right? Because it's great when they're babies and when they're like my son's age at 7, because all they want is you, right? And then they grow up and they don't want you, and they're going off and doing their own stuff. And they need to do that to become whole-rounded adults that we want them to be, but we don't want them to do that. This is not what we want our kids to do. We want them to need us still. Well,
they do still need us, though, too.
Well, I know,
it's just a different way.
Exactly. And it's, as a parent, getting used to that. And I'm not sure I'm going to be the most PC of parents when it comes to that, because I have such a close relationship to my son that when he starts to push away, I'm going to be like, hang on a minute. What's going on here? So it's okay. I have to refocus my attentions then. It's all good. I know this. But so look, what is the primary need then? What do these kids need that, you know, as young adults that maybe as parents we're not giving them, and like as a coach you can give them? What are their needs? Do they need us to shut up?
You got it. Actually, that's exactly what I was going to say, Claire. One of the biggest needs they have is space to figure things out for themselves. And as parents, and especially caring parents or parents who want to maybe create a better environment than maybe they left with an ex, or maybe they had growing up, they're very quick to step in and solve problems and give answers and help. And that's not always the best approach. Like you said, sometimes it is, we have to shut up and we have to give them the space they need so that they can process things in their own time. So one thing we can give them
the space. Well, give them the space in their bedrooms, though, because this is like, do we just let them mull it over in their bedroom?
Within conversation.
Okay, all right, that's okay. Because I just wanted to
within conversation. It's inviting connection and asking questions, or if they come to us, because they'll come to us with something, even if it's seems silly or seems not important to us from our perspective. What we need to be for them is a safe place to land, to say, you've got this and you are stronger than you think you are. And turn the questions back on them saying, what do you think?
Wow. Okay.
And then shutting up and letting them think instead of, it's this, right? Instead of stepping in with the answer.
And not going in with,
be able to see.
And not going in with, I've done this, I've got the t-shirt, I've had, done the video, wrote the book, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But even though if you have, you've still got to let them figure it out for themselves and not give them the answer. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because like you say, with your 7-year-old, he's around you all the time. He wants to be your best buddy. He's been watching you this whole time.
I know.
And as they grow into 7, 12, 14, 17, they're still watching you. They know that you
okay.
know some stuff. They just don't necessarily want to hear it.
Fair enough. Somebody said to me that with teenagers that you lose them, but then they come back to you when they're like 24 or whatever, 25, once they've figured out their stuff, and then you get them back as your children, but they're different children because they've figured out all of their stuff. And so you get like an adult version back. So you like give away the child, allow them to do, and hope that you've done all the work that you need to let values, behaviors, let them go in the world and make their mistakes and decisions, and make sure they're not too destructive.
I don't like to say you lose them, because if we're doing our jobs through the teen and young adult years, we are still connected, and we're learning together how to navigate the future adult relationship that we're going to have. So it is a letting go process. It's a releasing.
But it's losing your baby, though, and getting an adult back. I think you're losing your child.
Right.
That you've still got them, but it's that child then developing into an adult. And they're still in there. I know.
They still want you. They still want to know that you're there for them, that you have their back, and that you're going to keep showing up and keep loving on them, even when they tell you that it's embarrassing or annoying or whatever.
I'm 51. I'm 51, and I still chat with my mum and dad and tell them everything. Maybe they don't want to know everything, but I chat with them and tell them everything. And my mum still imparts her little bits of wisdom, like, well, you can't burn the candle at both ends. And I just look at her and go, I'm 51, Mum. I'm okay, thanks. I will do what I need to do. And I still don't like listen. And I know she's right, but at the end of the day, I still sit there and go, yep, whatever. It's fine. So yeah. Okay. So they still need us to connect back with them.
Absolutely.
But what else do they? So they need us to shut up, right? But like, what else do they need us to do? Like, are there things that I'm missing? So connecting, I understand, but giving them their space to grow and do their own thing. But what about setting boundaries? What about dealing with setting boundaries with social media, or dealing with computers, or dealing with those sort of things? As a parent, I sit there and I go, oh my God, they're like in their bedroom like 8 hours a day, and like on a computer, and
it
communicating.
Can be really damaging.
Well, exactly. And their way of communicating is communicating online to their mates. My 7-year-old does it even now. And there are times where his friends are over, and all 4 of them are sitting on their iPads playing games, communicating. So, but that's how they communicate, right? But do you set boundaries? Do you how do you deal with boundaries at teenage times?
Well, again, the patterns you've had when they're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 early years, those can continue. The opportunity is then to invite them into collaboration with those rules and boundaries. Express your concerns about it. And they understand. They've done the research. They've heard in school how social media can damage the brain or cause mental health issues and things like that. They've heard this. And again, there's not loads of research on it yet. And we all know it. And parents, we've been talking about it for many years. And if we've been intentional, we've shared our concerns with our kids along the way as they've grown. So the opportunity with teenagers is to help them set their own boundaries, because again, we're not going to be around there forever, shutting off the Wi-Fi or taking their iPads out of their hands.
Yeah.
We're not going to be around forever. Our job is to help them learn to navigate the technology, the social media responsibly. So we do that by modeling it ourselves. If we are struggling, open up, admit that you struggle too, and work on holding each other accountable. Oh my gosh, teenagers love it when they get to hold you accountable.
But how do
So
you
if
do
you're in
that?
it together, it's a different energy than just I'm imposing the rules on you and you have these rules and consequences. It's my intention is not to just be able to punish you when you fall out of line. My intention as a parent is to teach you how to use this responsibly. What do you think that looks like? And if they're way off and it looks to them like I use it 8 hours a day and whenever I want, then you say, well, that's not going to really work in this house, because when you're with me or when you're with the family or when you're with the friends, I really want you to learn how to interact socially so that you can be a good prospect for a job interview, so that you can be a good spouse, a good husband or wife someday, an effective teacher or parent or mentor or guide or whatever you want to be in your life. And that takes social interaction, and it's not always going to be through a screen.
So how do you get them to set boundaries for, I was going to say set boundaries for you, right? But like, how do you work together on those boundaries as such? So I do have one that if my son is no iPad time, then we both don't. I don't have my phone. I don't have my iPad or whatever, which can be a bit challenging if I'm working and stuff like that, because you're always switched on, you're always working because, with the phones we've got nowadays, they're like mini computers. So that can be a bit challenging, but that's okay. So he has to hold me accountable for that situation as such.
At 7, at a young age, they tell you in different ways, right? They might, the toddlers grab your phone away, or they might throw it across the room if you're on it too much. So we've really, over the years, had to pay attention to those signals. And if your 7-year-old comes in and is like, he really wants to start talking to you and is asking for your attention, like there will be these subtle ways where they will show you that they are not okay with you having that phone in your hand at the same time.
And let's face it, I had 2 years of COVID, right? So he was coming in and asking me questions every 10 minutes, which was great for work. But I did discover that if you give them 10, 15 minutes of your full undivided attention, that's enough to give you a break for at least 45 minutes.
Right. And my kids were a little older, so I would tell them, I said, I have calls at this time, or I need to be working between this time and this time. And when you come in, if I can talk to you, I will, or I will come out at a certain time, or, it helped me create boundaries around my own time too, so that I could get up and take breaks and connect with them and be there for them. I wasn't quite in full business building mode at that time, but the same thing where it was, I needed to figure out my own stuff too, while I was trying to work with them. So yeah, even as they grow up over the years, they see what you're doing. Like we said at the beginning, they are always watching you, whether they're listening to you or not. They are always watching. So it becomes that it's a conversation. What do you need from your screens? What do you need away from your screens? What helps you feel good? What helps you feel healthy? How do you feel when you spend 10 hours in your bedroom on the computer? And what do you need from me to help? And both of you can answer that question for each other. What do you need? I could use my kids actually speaking their need. Mom, I need a hug. And my kids do that. They come in, I just need a hug, Mom. Great. I can do that. But if they come in and just like tap on me and climb on me and, talk at me, and they don't actually learn to express that what they actually need, then it becomes frustrating for everyone, because they're not getting their need met. And I don't know why they keep bugging me.
Exactly.
So we've talked a lot in my house about, well, what do you really want? And
what can I do
them
to help you?
Learn what their actual intention and what their feeling is and what their needs are in that moment. And again, that is just even more you're able to go even deeper with teenagers because they can talk about what they're really afraid of or what they're really looking for, because they're really, they have more of the language around those needs now.
Do you find though that they tell you though as a parent? Like, how do you, because I do know, and I have my son has two half sisters, right? They're both teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And I think their mum is doing a fantastic and awesome job. They are both awesome kids, switched on, sassy, heading and steamrolling their way through life, which is great, right? And they're just awesome, right? And I can actually sit down and have a full-on adult conversation with the eldest, who's going to be 18 soon, like, and I can with the youngest as well, right? The younger one. But it's different, right? Because she's 13 and the other one's 18. So she's 14 now.
Parents find it difficult to sometimes ask questions without an agenda.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
So that's where teens' resistance come in, because they think that you have an agenda. If you're like, well, tell me about school, or tell me about this person, or whatever, they think you're coming at them with an agenda. So the work on us parents is to continue to do our own work, to come to them and alongside them and with them in that energy of open curiosity versus, well, I need to ask you about your homework, but I'll start by asking you about this instead. Okay. So like they can sense that, that inauthenticity, that agenda that you might be coming into a conversation with. So the best thing is to just be available in the downtime when there's not really anything going on. Driving time is a great time to talk to teenagers because they're not looking at you and they don't have to look at you, and you can't look at them if you're driving them. So once they start to drive themselves, well, the opportunities are fewer, but use it while you've got it, right? And the other thing is, like, sometimes the family dinner is really important. That is emphasizing all the child development literature and research, the power of the family dinner. Put the phones away, put the screens off during the family dinner, even if it's just one time a week, even if that's all you get is one time a week because they're in activities or you're all around town. Even if it's one time a week, however often you can do it, the family dinner is so important. And like you said, sometimes they're just going to resist. They're going to push back against parents. They might not seem receptive or that they're listening to. Our job is to keep showing up and to keep offering, to keep inviting them out with our family or out to do stuff, or even, hey, do you want to go grocery shopping with me? Even the little things, those little moments, opportunities to connect. Because like you said, even with the toddlers, even just a small amount of time shows them that we're there for them and that we still want them around and we like them, and they
even
are
if they
still
keep saying no.
Good. Even if they keep saying no, we have to keep inviting them because that's our job, is to show up unconditionally. We love them. Yeah. And we need to just let them know. We need to sometimes even get weird about it. It's okay.
Okay. So what are some of the negatives about the teenage years though?
Well, it's a struggle. They're dealing with a lot of anxiety. Mental health is huge, especially because of the last few years. They're sort of simmering underneath everything else is this concept that everything they know could be yanked out from underneath them again at any time.
Because of COVID.
They get I think there's just this collective anxiety of what's going to happen next. When's the other shoe going to drop? Is the end of the world actually coming? Wow. And that's a real tough spot to be in, because hormonally and developmentally we're already in that everything that happens to me is the end of the world kind of mindset in those years, right? Yeah. So to have something very real in the recent experience just amplifies that for them. So that is definitely a struggle. They are looking around and they're seeing some of their friends, family members, peers making confident choices, being very competent and high achieving. And they think, well, everybody else has it all figured out and I'm still struggling. And what's wrong with me? So there's that negative self-talk and that confusion, information overload. They have a ton of different opportunities.
Well, they have so much
and
more
they're afraid of
information
picking
than I
the
had.
wrong one. Yeah. And they're afraid of picking the wrong one. And especially the ones in supportive households with phenomenal parents, they don't want to pick the wrong one and let down their parents. They don't want to let down the people who've believed in them and who've supported them. And so they haven't practiced a lot of mistake making and playing and trying different things to see what fits. So that's really a big need, is just the permission to let go a little bit of the perfectionism and having to have it all figured out their whole life right now at 16, 17, 18 years old.
Do you think they have a worse time of it than I? Because I mean, like everything you're saying, I go, yep, went through all of that. And I don't think, like, there are a lot of things that are going on at the moment that I sit there in my 51 years and go, God, I don't understand all this stuff. Why are they doing that? What's going on? Why? And that's fine. And I sound like my mother now. And if I was a teenager, like way back when I was a teenager, I'd be like, oh, come on. And my mum was a young mum, right? So I'm just like, yeah. But like all of the stuff that I hear you saying and talking about is stuff that I went through. I didn't want to make the wrong choices at school, choose the wrong subjects, choose the wrong career. Everyone did seem as though they'd got it together. They were doing great at school, or they were doing great in sports or socially or anything, right? I was doing okay, but like you said, right, with all those hormones and everything going on, right, you just sit there and you're going, and I'm imagining it must be worse because I didn't have social media. I didn't have Insta and Facey and all of those things that...
There is even more coming at them now, yeah.
So how has it changed? Like if I'm a parent, right, of a teenager, how is their life different from my life? Or my life when I was a teenager?
Well, you pretty much nutshelled it just there. Had a lot of the same, you have a lot of the same concerns, the same, influencing factors. It is, like I said, it's amplified. We talked about social media earlier. With the social media, they're seeing everybody else's highlight reel. The other piece of that is there's this pressure to create content and generate likes.
Even
and that they can't just be or do something without it being a post or a piece of content. So there's that additional pressure there. And you ask if it's better or worse, and I don't really like to use that.
That's fair enough.
Better or worse. It is definitely different. And again, that's why I think the most powerful thing we can do as parents is be open and realize that we might know some of what they're dealing with, because a lot of the general things, the perceptions have not changed. It's still the same. We're looking for identity. We're looking for purpose. We're looking for belonging in our world. And same with the teens today. And there's also a lot more factors at play for them. So coming alongside them, with them, in conversation with them in a way that's, like you said, I have no idea about any of this stuff. And I can go to my kids and I can say, or the kids that I mentor or coach, and be like, I heard about this thing. What is that? And they will be happy to school you on it. Because again, just like they like holding adults accountable for things, they also like to know more than you. And it gives them this opportunity to share their expertise, because that's what we want them to go out in the world and do, is go out and share their expertise and experience. We want their voice to matter. We want them to have influence and impact in their own empowered way. So yeah, let's come to them with the questions we have about whatever new social media thing is on the horizon, or some of the language they use, or the reason they're watching a certain YouTube video, or the reason they're consuming a certain type of content. It's not a bad thing to admit that you are not aware of it, because we all have access to the same information, but we are not all consuming the same information.
I know.
So giving them the opportunity to school us on it, that's another opportunity for connection.
Yes. And they need to be able to, I hate to say it, people, but they need to be able to communicate to other people out there, because that's what we're all about as human beings, right? When they get into the workplace, it won't be that they'll be, well, I don't know, because, a lot of the time people are working from home, so you can hide away at home. But it's not, you're still going to need to be able to communicate, right? Whether it's virtually or whether it is face-to-face. Are you seeing through your coaching more challenges regarding teens not being able to communicate face-to-face effectively? And is that an area that we as parents should be actually looking at and seeing, putting our teens into situations? And I'm sorry, this is a complete question left of field, right? But I'm sitting here thinking, all my interactions were face-to-face. I went out on my bike and went and played with my mates and had to have face-to-face interactions at school. And there were, internet was coming around, and we are talking a very long time ago here. And there were Commodore 64s and stuff like that around, which we played games on, but there was no way that they, even when you played games with your friends, they were in the same room, right? They weren't halfway around the world. They weren't in another street, on a headphone and microphone. So do you see there as being challenges with this, with teens face-to-face?
I think with some of them, definitely, and especially other business owners and professionals that I am in contact with that are in my network, there have been complaints about just the way they show up or don't show up. And for the most part, it is those opportunities that help teach them those skills. And it is when they fail and fall short in those scenarios that they learn. They learn that they can't just get by with ghosting someone who is paying their paycheck. They can't, they learn they can't do that. And part of that, you asked what parents, what mentors can do, is to allow those natural consequences to happen when it's sort of a low risk situation. If it's a part-time job, or if it's a class at school and they failed because they were on their cell phone in class, or because they didn't turn in the work they were supposed to, or because they didn't go and talk to the teacher, then they fail. And it's not our job to make that better and put a Band-Aid on it and get them a passing grade when they didn't earn it. It's their job to learn how they need to show up in order to get where they want to go. Sports are excellent for this. Activities, chess club, whatever. There's all sorts of different activities they can
express themselves,
that they can join, that they can find something they're interested in and gather a group of real life people around them to encourage each other and to learn those interpersonal skills, those communication skills, those leadership skills that can be developed. And I think that's really exceptional that there are so many things out there. And even if it's not something organized, I talked with a young man who was convinced that he really didn't have any interests. But as I asked him more and more questions about like, well, what classes do you like? Are you in any activities? He was like, well, I don't like any classes. I'm not in any activities through school. I never liked any classes.
Sounds like a teenager.
Oh my gosh. So,
well, you earned your money that day.
and I kept asking questions because, well, he didn't run away. He didn't stop talking. He didn't stop answering, even if it was a negative answer. So I eventually asked what he did with his friends when they got together, and they did the Dungeons and Dragons, the role-playing games, wow. So it's and I'm like, well, that's something, because you're getting together with a group of people, you are problem solving, you are using statistics and math to create, and generate these characters. You're creative problem solving, you're using your imagination, you're building up, communication skills and some bits of psychology, getting into the minds of these characters. It's very applicable to real life. I think they call them soft skills, but it's really, there was a lot of connections there to things that he didn't even realize that he was doing, as he was just doing something fun with his friends. So that's the biggest part of my job, is making those connections, or pointing them out, not making the connections, because the connections are there, but pointing them out and helping these young people become aware that they really are more powerful than they might believe. They really have more connection to real people than they might think. And to be able to cultivate that and really use it with intention and purpose. And that's where they really start to shine.
Are there things that we as a society need to stop doing for these teenagers? Because while you were talking there, I'm sort of going, and I see it in the media a lot, we sort of label teenagers as kids who have an attitude problem, who go out, who are doing, we've got in Melbourne at the moment, we have teenagers throwing rocks at cars and at pedestrians in certain suburbs of Melbourne because they think it's fun. I don't know. They get a reaction. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. But I just wonder if society and the media should stop doing, because they're teenagers, right? They're not aliens, they're human beings, right? And I just wonder if how we're influencing these kids within our society is actually affecting them in quite a massive way.
I think part of what we're seeing with the generation coming up is a real pushback against some of that stuff. They don't want to be labeled. They don't want to fit in a certain box. They are expressing themselves in these ways that there's shock value in, dressing a certain way or acting a certain way or identifying with a certain group just to see what the reaction from the grownups in the room are going to be. And that's all part of growing up and discovering for themselves. And I think that because the media, like big media, is sort of losing its influence to things like Instagram and TikTok and social media that.
Yeah.
They don't really probably care as much. They really care more about the people in their own lives and the people that they know and the people who are around them, and what do they think of me? And do they believe in me? And do they buy into what the media is saying about teenagers? So a really powerful thing that we can do as mentors and guides and parents and teachers and coaches and whoever we are to these young people is to show them that no matter what is going on in the world or what the news is saying or what other media says about who they are, who they should be, we see them, we hear them, we love them, and we're here for them. And even if we don't understand, that doesn't mean that any of that other stuff changes.
Yeah, it's just that, with the labels of like Gen X, Gen Y, millennials and stuff like that, right? I just go like, and I'm a Gen Xer, right? So like, what can I say? I'm like right at the top of the tree. At least I'm not a baby boomer, I suppose. But like at the end of the day, right? Like, I just sit there and like, I go, why are we labeling generations, right? Because it's so bad.
We always have.
We're always we're all of us are individuals, right? And all of us have different things that, we our value, what we value. Different generations value different things for different reasons, right? And it's just interesting. I didn't know how it was
being
affecting
open and
people.
curious to let them define their own values and ask them like, well, what is it you value about this or that or the other? And like, well, here's the value system I'm coming from. Here's where I learned it. And like, be willing to change your view if you learn new information, because that's part of what connects us, is to be able to learn from each other and to have our lens that we see through widened up a little bit so that we can grow. Because there's always new things happening. And I think even Socrates wrote about how the youth today were just, gonna destroy the future or something too.
Well,
so,
we
like,
sort of have
every generation since the beginning of time, the older generations look at the younger ones and go, what the heck are they doing?
Well, I have said that a few times, but like, I think it's great. Like, I want to learn from them as to, what they're doing. What are you talking about? And like, let's face it.
They have such an opportunity to change the conversation and to really level it up. They have such amazing self-awareness, and they really aren't going to take any crap from anybody.
No.
They don't, if you don't treat them with respect, they're going to just walk. That's a lot of employers are saying, oh, well, we can't keep Gen Z workforce. And it's like, well, yeah, because you actually have to meet them a little bit closer to where they are instead of continuing to do things that you do for the Gen Xers, because it just doesn't work, because they speak a different language, and they're very perceptive, and they're very aware, and they are willing to learn, and they do want to be successful, and they want to see what that can look like for them too.
They seem more, I'm going to label them now, but they seem more of a collaborative generation, maybe because they've made more content, gone out there. Maybe because of social media. I don't know.
It's a beautiful opportunity. And it's not to say that the adults, the Gen X and millennials, need to let them get away with certain things that are disrespectful, or like if you don't show up for work or don't call out, like, we need to help them understand that they are in community and collaboration with their employers and their fellow staff members and things like that. And they do really have this opportunity to start to kind of level up and evolve the workplace culture that they're entering into.
Yes, but I think we, as Gen Xers, baby boomers, etc., we were brought up in like an egotistical workforce, or white ivory towers or whatever, where you did what you told and that was it, and it's almost like you followed orders. And these guys are going, well, actually what you're saying isn't the way we want to, isn't the right way. We can see a different way. Or
they're calling it out, saying this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And why do we do it this way? And it forces us to take a look and ask. And if we're willing to, we can ask, well, why are we doing it this way? And is it the most effective way?
And maybe it is. Yeah.
And maybe it is, but maybe it's not. And if we're willing to ask the question, then maybe we're willing to shift to where that we can come together more effectively too for common goals.
Yeah, no, that's right. So look, talk to me a little bit about your coaching. Why do people come to you? Why do parents come to you? Do teenagers come to you? Why do people come to you? Is it that they've got like an unruly teen and they don't know what to do? What are the reasons?
No, generally I see the achieving teens who are more of a people-pleasing kind of I'm going after the A's, and suddenly I get to college or am looking at life on my own and I don't really know what to do. So the parents start to see this pressure or anxiety, and they search me out, or they search out a life coach because maybe their kid's already working through stuff in therapy, or maybe not, maybe doesn't need it. And they just want somebody else to come alongside, come on the team, somebody who is just for that young person.
Yeah.
Because as you've said it a number of times in our conversation of, my kids don't necessarily want to listen to me, or what can we do as parents when our teens are pushing away or resisting our influence? And they do, and they're supposed to. So the idea is the parents who kind of wake up to that they're doing all they can, and their son or daughter still needs extra support, they seek out, what does that look like, and come across the option of a life coach, which that helps them see that there are people who can influence and pour into their kids in a similar way that the parents would. I like to say I outsource my kids. I am a coach, but I don't coach my own kids.
That's fair enough.
They have mentors outside of our family, because I know this. I know this is true, that as effective as I can be, it is exponentially more effective to have other people speaking our values into them at the same time.
Because
and reinforcing that.
They listen to somebody.
Reinforcing
like you can say the same thing as somebody else, but because you're saying it to your child, right?
Yes. And I do speak in my marketing a lot directly to young people as well. So it just kind of depends on where I'm at. Am I in front of a classroom of students, or am I talking on a podcast to parents? Who am I talking to? But the idea is, if the parents come to me, I need their child to be on board. So I won't enroll anybody into my program without meeting the actual client, the teen, the 17, 16, whoever, the 18-year-old who's going to be coming on board. Because if they don't like me, or if they don't jive with me, that's fine.
Then that makes it, that's fine. But it makes your job harder.
If they're going to resist me too.
Yeah.
Or if they're not on board with the idea of coaching. But a lot of young people are aware that this is an option, and they will seek it out. And then how much more likely is it that they're going to actually get it if they go to their parents and say, look, I'm struggling. I don't know that you can really give me what I need, but I found this option, this coach, this mentor, this guide. And they, sometimes it's just, oh, well, they saw me on TikTok or whatever. That's fine. But I have my website and all my information out there, very easy to find, so that when the adults are doing the vetting and their due diligence, which they absolutely should do, then it's all on the up and up, and we're all on the same team, right? We're all going to be working together. That's the intention. So whether it's the teens come, learn about me through a classroom event or online social media, whatever, or whether their parents, float the idea by them. Again, I work with mostly well-adjusted, sometimes high-achieving, sometimes athletic, families and teens. If they're really having trouble, I have people in my network who are very well trained and professionals in that area. I am not. I don't have that in my background. So I was seeing more of I can really help in this space where it's, I'm graduating and I won't have somebody giving me A's and, gold star stickers every time I do something right anymore. What happens then? And how do I figure it out and define my own success? Or how do I know what I want to do when there's not somebody telling me what to do? And they start to feel that, and the parents start to see that shift. And that's where we can all come in together and get them that support they need for the next stage.
And so once they've come on board with you, right? What do you actually do with the teenager as such? Do you set goals? Do you just listen to them? What do you actually do with the teen?
Yeah,
Without
it
obviously
depends.
giving trade secrets away, but
I have no problem giving away everything I know for free, because you're not always going to hear everything that I say, just like a teenager. Not everybody's. I've read tons of books and I still don't retain all the information, right? So we're always learning. We always need to know and reinforce what we know. So it's not an easy answer. Well, it's a simple answer, but it's not an easy answer, because it just kind of depends what the young person, what my client is coming in with. Where are they at? So I do a 3-month program. It's 90 days, and we spend the first part of that I get to know them really well. We have a kind of a longer session where we do some foundational work. Where are they at? Where do they want to go? What's success going to look like at the end of this 90 days? What do we really need to do? And then we meet regularly for half hour, 45 minutes at a time. And we continue that work. Sometimes it's just we talk. Sometimes it's, well, how did that event go? Or did you meet the goal you set for yourself? Sometimes it's personal goal setting. Sometimes it's accountability. Sometimes it's, I think we need to do some more values work and talk about your personal values, or give you some skills to go out and try, some tools to use with communication with parents or teachers or whoever that might be. So it really varies. And
to the individual,
I found that
basically.
And I found that the 90-day program framework is pretty effective, because it doesn't scare the younger people away, because it's not like a year-long commitment.
Yeah.
We don't have to do it forever. They can be done if they didn't, think it was what they wanted to do, which that, again, I don't want it. I don't want to start off that way.
Yeah.
And I will do everything I can to help equip them to meet their goals, because ultimately it is their job to do it. But they're not locked in if they feel like they don't want to anymore. So we do the 90 days and we do shorter sessions, because again, like these young people, they're very busy. They have sports or activities, school, work, all different things going on in their lives. So my intention is always to make myself accessible and the work reasonable for them. So I don't want to add to their, already stressful pressures in life. My job is to help them organize, prioritize, identify what's going to make it easier for them and what's going to lighten the load, so that they are equipped and confident going into the future, so that they can, like we were talking with managing technology, so they're equipped to draw their own boundaries and make their own decisions and shift if they need to when the decisions don't work out the way they thought they might. So
no, that's fair enough. So look, where can people get in contact with you if they're interested in coaching, you coaching their teen, or just if they've got questions or they want to read more up about you?
I am always happy to answer questions and communicate. I love talking to people. My website is saradeacon.com. So it's SaraDeacon.com. And then I am Sara Deacon Coach on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, all of the social medias.
You're all over the place.
I'm not, I'm more active on some than others, but I am on most of the main social media platforms, and maybe a few fringe ones. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But it's Sara Deacon Coach on social media, saradeacon.com. Parents can download I have a free guide for starting conversations. So it's called Teen Talk Tactics. So if they want that free guide, they can go to the website. It's right on the pop-up that comes up on the website, or they can go to saradeacon.com/tactics for that.
Fab. Okay. And look, they can just put your name into Google and you pop up anyway. So, if they can't remember all of that, mind you,
That's
it's saradeacon.com. I mean, at the end of the day.
Or the adulting coach, I think I come up with that too in Google, the adulting coach. Because there's not a lot of people that go by that either. So
no, and look, I'll put all the links in the bio anyway. So
appreciate it.
There should be loads of places they'll be able to find you. So look, thank you for coming and chatting with me about teenagers who seem a complete and utter mystery to me at the moment.
Right.
And I'm sure I will go through the usual parent stuff.
It was really fun.
No, I'll go through this is all research, right? This is all research for when my son gets to a teenager, and then it will be just as hard as everyone else is dealing with at the moment. Because, I'm hoping that I get some more tips and hints so it's not hard. Well, but I just know my personality.
You're doing what you're doing, and I think you're going to be great. Just stay connected and
just know my personality and his personality.
He always loves you.
Well, and this is what I've said to him. I always say, look, Mummy will always love you, no matter how horrible everything gets, how confusing, how challenging it is. I will always love you. I will always be there for you. You're not getting rid of me. This is it. One mum, that's it. Although he has two, so he's quite lucky because he's got his sister's mum as well. So he sort of classes her as his mum as well. So that's quite good. So look,
just the more of us, the better.
I know, exactly. It's a village, isn't it?
Yes.
So look, one final question that I'm asking everyone, and I'm just interested with what people are saying. What piece of advice were you given? It can be something recently, or it can be something way in your past that you still use today. Because people like giving advice out to everyone, right? But there's stuff that, like, for me, it's this too will pass, right? That's always like, it's just take a breath. It will pass, right? It just, life moves on, right? So that's my piece of advice, just to put it out there. But yeah, no,
I think one of the best ones along my journey was the realization that everything is a choice. Through some of the coaching and mentoring that I have received, it really hit me. I think just before COVID, but also through COVID, was we always have a choice.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't feel like you have a choice, you still have a choice. And if you're going to choose to do something that maybe is not your favorite thing to do, you still get to choose your attitude. And if you choose not to do something that you really are, maybe that it feels like you're being made to or forced to, there's still that decision. You can still choose not to. You can't always choose what happens as a result of your choice. You can always choose your response. So there's always a choice, which at times in my life, it has been very terrifying to realize that, but also it's been very empowering.
And I always think sometimes leaving it a day before you make that choice might be a good choice.
Right.
Because
I have many, many words of wisdom, and that's part of it too, is like yours, this too shall pass, and a feeling is a feeling, and a feeling is temporary. But and to make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings is not always the most effective choice, although we might find ourselves making that choice.
Although if they keep coming back, right, and the world keeps giving you a nudge to make a decision, right, through emotional issues, right, whatever that may be, then maybe you need to make that choice and stop being so scared. Who knows? But no, this too shall pass is like whether you're in a good situation or whether it's a bad situation, right? It just
I always say never quit on a bad day, because because again, those things pass. It's funny. I saw that was one of your questions, and I didn't even prepare that answer. And I was looking at in front of my desk. I actually have another little nugget here. It says that it's a handwritten note that I put up there, and I don't know when I did it. It says, "Nothing has meaning but the meaning I give it."
Perfect.
Which kind of goes back to the choice is I can choose to believe something. I can choose to have something mean something or not.
Yeah. And sometimes you just have to sit in where, and I think at the moment I'm driving people silly with me going, I just need to sit in this at the minute because I just need to, because I have to give myself time to process where I'm at and what I'm doing. And
what a beautiful
I'm feeling
example.
And what I'm going through, right? So you have to sit in it, and instead of actually using all manner of things to mask it, right? Like alcohol, drinking, fitness, I don't know what else, food, anything else, right?
That goes back to the silence we were talking about at the beginning. Give yourself that space, that silence to sit in it. And if you're annoying other people by setting that beautiful example of feeling your feelings and being in
I just keep saying
your body and being in the moment, well, some of the times you say it, you're probably doing it too. So.
Yeah. But yeah.
But I think that's a beautiful example of things that we need to do. We need to step back and we need to witness our feelings and hold space for those opportunities, those choices to evaluate ourselves and what meaning we're giving any given thing in any given moment.
Yeah.
And
no, exactly.
It can be exhausting to do that all the time, but when we can be intentional about doing that, I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, because you've got to just basically process it. And if you're going to mask it with everything else or just try and push it down, then you're not dealing with it.
It's going to come back.
Exactly. Hey ho, it's all good. Hey, I wish I knew this when I was 30, even in my 20s. But right? this is what happens. Look, Sarah, thank you so much for coming on here. It's been great talking to you, and I hope everyone has pulled out a nugget or two from what we've been discussing and covering off. So I'm going to let you get on with it's your evening where you are, isn't it?
It is. This is my first appearance in Australia, I think. So
I know.
It's fantastic.
Come on down. Come and visit.
It's been a pleasure.
Don't come and visit at the moment. It's blooming freezing. Blue skies, but freezing. But come and visit in the summer. We need as many people here as possible.
You never know. I never rule anything out. We'll see when I become the world traveler.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Well, look, thank you. And we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, Claire.
Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast and you would like to hear more, please hit subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. If you would like to support us further, share this episode with your friends and family. And finally, drop us a review on iTunes, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and ideas. It all helps me to understand and produce awesome content you want to hear just like this. If you want to check out our past episodes, write to us, appear on the podcast, or for links, resources, and show notes, go to our website, www.strongsingleandhuman.com. We are also on all the usual social media platforms, Insta, Facey, and Twitter. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Be kind to yourself, and remember, no one is perfect. We're all just putting one foot in front of the other and doing our best. I'm Claire Martin, and you've been listening to the Strong, Single and Human podcast.